All right. Are we all buying Tesla stock now that Elon Musk is going back to work? Did you hear about this? That's the story. Welcome to our NewsNation live Q&A on all our NewsNation digital platforms. I'm Connell McShane with the brothers Najarian. John and Pete Najarian are with us. We're going to take questions from everybody on, wherever you're watching, whether YouTube, Facebook, whatever it is, just on your various chat in front of you. Just type in your questions, stock picks, market takes, tariffs, whatever you want to talk about. But I want to talk about Tesla, actually, because there's some news just coming out right now with John and Pete. Brief introductions. As I said, hopefully you know me. If you watch NewsNation, it was just on the air from 3 to 6, but I had to run to the bathroom before. That's what delayed us getting out. And then someone's in the bathroom. God, then run down the hall, the other bathroom. So now we're just, so I apologize for getting on a little later tonight. But John and Pete Najarian, if you watch financial TV for years, you've probably seen them. I used to watch them on CNBC all the time, even when I was working at Bloomberg and or Fox Business. So we didn't get a chance to be on TV together very much until recently. Now they're on, we're just on with us at NewsNation. So you guys, before we talk Tesla, you guys have a cool story too. I know your followers, many of whom are probably logging on, know it already, but it's like football, markets. Does anybody want to give us a brief background?
I think Pete should.
No, Pete. Come on, Pete. Pump yourself up a little bit.
He's passing the buck.
Hand a lateral.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I'll start off then. It started with John going to Chicago, playing with the Chicago Bears. And,
right.
When he was released, he wasn't sure what he was going to do. He got involved with the Chicago Board Options Exchange and fell in love with it. Did extremely well right out of the gate because he's a very smart guy. The options world is very confusing at first. And until you really get the handle on it, it's one of those things where you're just going, I know I'm close, but I'm not there yet. Well, John turned that around to be pretty fast. And then call it, about 10 or 20. Well, how many years later did I come, John? I think about 11, actually. 11 or 12 years later, I came. I had just finished playing football at the professional level for about 5 or 6 years or something like that. And I loved it, but I was on my way to medical school. And then I decided, you know what? I'm feeling like at 30 years old, I don't want to go through the next 10 years and then finally become a doctor. So I decided to try it out down in Chicago, and John gave me an opportunity and I took advantage of it. And, we literally became.
It is a great story, right? What year were you with the Bears, John?
1981. I played 4 games.
You're more than me. One more than me, right? Where did you guys play in college? Or
I played all over. I played at junior college. I played at Cal. I played at Cornell.
You were like the transfer portal before the transfer portal.
He was the original transfer portal.
He was the portal, yeah.
Did
you sit out a year each time? You were in college for like 12 years. No. And what about you, Pete? And then we'll go Tesla. What was your background on the sports side?
So I was lucky enough to get recruited around the country. I originally was going to go to Cal. I decided that was the place I wanted to be. It's where a brother of ours played, and my dad played, and his brother played in Rose Bowl, all that kind of thing. I ended up going to the University of Minnesota, of all things. And that's where we had moved to. I had a great experience there. I was lucky enough to play for one of the most historic coaches, I think, in all of football with Lou Holtz before he went to Notre Dame.
Oh, okay.
And, I'm his only 2-year captain he's ever had. So I always like to.
That's pretty cool.
I love that he did that for me. It was really great. And, hopefully I was the leader that he wanted. But we had a great time. He brought us to a bowl game after he took over a team that was 1-10. Everybody was fired. Lou came in. He turned us into a team that actually went to a bowl game. We beat Clemson. And he went to Notre Dame and eventually won the national title, I think, just a couple of years, 2 years later. So,
yeah.
Pretty good.
That was some team. Yeah, I remember that Notre Dame team. That was some team. All right, so let's get into the market. So then you guys are in the markets for years. They've been commentating on the markets, have their own firm, and know a lot about a lot of things, especially trading. As not that you don't know about investing, but you guys are great on trades. Let me ask you before I go to our viewer questions. I see Andrew, see Mike, Faith, some others getting in there, which is great. Get your questions in on the chat right now. It could be about anything. It could be stocks you like. These guys, like they said, options is their thing. You want to get in to the weeds on all that stuff. That would be great. China, Trump was just talking on our show about China. Are we buying Tesla now? Because I was, first we were focused. Tesla came out, I think when you guys were on the show, we were saying, the numbers like down 70% year over year. And net income. And then Elon got on the call and was like, enough of this government shit. I'm out of here. Enough of this. I quit. That wasn't a quote, but it was something like that. He said something like that. He said, enough of the government. He said, what did he actually say? He says, I'm going to stay a couple of days a week if Trump wants me. But for the most part, I'm going to be going back to business. I'm going to next month, much less Doge. Pete, you want to take that first? We buying Tesla now?
Yeah, sure. I think it certainly is something that we should all consider. I mean, the fact that he wasn't there for this long period of time, and it's been a struggle. And they had issues with deliveries, so that was a problem. That's why we kind of knew the numbers were going to be very bad this particular quarter. So, the heads up was there. That's why the stock wasn't selling off very aggressively for something that they absolutely missed everything that they were looking for. But I think going forward, the more Elon is there, the more opportunity for Tesla to have more success, I think. And so because of that, now I will say this, however, the one thing that's hurting him a little bit is the price of fuel. And I say that because I don't think a lot of people always understand when you think about it. It's an electric vehicle company, right? I mean, that's what they are. Well, if gas prices have come all the way down, I'm down here in Florida, we're paying about $2.80 a gallon right now. It used to be closer to $4 not too many weeks or months ago. So that's working against the electric vehicle makers as well. But he'll get past that. We'll get past that. And I think that, he always has that vision and passion that brings Tesla to the next level. So I'm a huge believer in what Elon's able to do. And I think it's going to be a better quarter next quarter and an even better quarter after that.
Let's talk, I think the question, I was asking this on our show, and John, I don't know what you think about, was there any kind of long-term damage, though, done by his movement into politics where people now look at his company differently? By the way, I thought when you said about fuel, swear to God, this is true. This morning I was driving and some woman's coming out of a gas station in the Tesla. I said, they should be pulled over immediately. They were just cutting off the traffic. That's what I thought you were going to say. When I looked at her, I'm like, what are you doing? She was trying to cut through the traffic. But what do you think, John, about if there's permanent damage done? Because I do think that, I said this to a guest at the end of our show, is a legit question. I mean, I got to admit, I was thinking about we needed a new car months ago, and I was thinking about a Tesla. They're great cars. And I almost got it. It had nothing to do with this. This was before all this. And then my wife said to me, I'm kind of happy we didn't get this because we don't need, nothing against the cars, but I don't need this. Somebody coming up, slashing the tires, thinking one thing or another. Is that an issue still, even if he gets back to business, John?
Yeah, it will be. Now, granted, it's a fringe issue of people that are doing that, sort of domestic. I don't know about terrorism, but certainly it's not the right thing to do to harm somebody else's property. But I think there's that risk because a lot of people have either been brainwashed or they believe that he really is, the second coming of Hitler. I don't see it, but I know people out there are not big fans of him, and as many as people have been fans of the vehicles. I think the vehicles are getting even better. That new Y vehicle that is delayed on deliveries, but the models that they've put out so far, it is killer.
Especially the self-driving apparently is unbelievable in it, somebody was saying. So,
and Elon has said that he thinks that the full self-driving or FSD is going to make the vehicle 5 times as valuable as any other vehicle because obviously it could not only just take you to and from where you want to go, but eventually it will be a robo-taxi. When you're at work, it could be working.
100%. I think it was, I know it was in Phoenix, but where I was recently saw the Waymo are all over the place. They're Jaguars that they're using, but I know I was going to say, I know they're coming to DC. Someone told me they were in one in San Francisco. So that's not only the future, it's here, and Tesla will be a player in it. Let's go to questions. Enough of us yapping about all this, especially the glory days of football and me.
By the way, it's up about $10.
I know it's up a lot now. So I think a lot of people like the fact that he's going back, right? Okay, Andrew, good time to invest in international stock indexes. How much of my portfolio should be non-US? That's what Andrew asked. All right, good time to go international. How much non-US? Who wants to go? Anybody have big thoughts on that? Wants to go first?
I'll jump first. I'll say emerging markets have been catching the wind at their back lately. But that's emerging markets. That's not Europe. That's emerging markets like Africa, parts of Asia, and so forth. They have been doing really well because people are basically saying, well, it's as the US investing and even investing in Europe and Japan and China becomes more risky, well, it kind of evens up with the risk in the emerging markets, except you think that the opportunity is much bigger because they're at such a low base. So I'd say international emerging, yes. International developed markets, no.
Pete?
Yeah, I would lean away from that as well, especially as John was talking about that and breaking it down. I think that the interesting part is when we've seen what's happened here in the U.S. and some of the vicious selling that we have had. Now, granted, we were able to get back everything we lost yesterday and maybe a little bit more. But I still think there's going to be a lot of interesting days in front of us here. And, you know, depending on the news story of the day and whatever Trump, everybody decides to do. But there are companies out there that I look at, and there are opportunities, I think. I mean, the selling has been brutal. They've gone after everybody, especially in the technology worlds particularly. But, you know, I've heard people at 120 saying, oh, gosh, I think NVIDIA is a steal here. Then it was 110. It's a steal here. I never believed in that. I went to that whole idea of, you know what, this thing has plenty of room to get sold down. But when we get to the point where it starts to move and actually has any strength to the upside, I think is somewhere very close to where we are now, which is in the, you know, the double digits. So, you know, if you loved it before, I think you're going to almost have to love it into the very near future. It doesn't mean it's now, but I think very, very soon when we start seeing, because the world that John and I trade in is the options world, the derivatives world. And it's amazing what those tips really look like. I mean, it's absolutely amazing when all of a sudden they come in and they start buying. We haven't seen that in NVIDIA. I hear people talking about it. I hear people saying, well, here's the buy at 110. You know what? I don't see any of the big boys coming in there. So why am I going to follow somebody else? I want to see the commitment of option paper that tells me somebody really thinks something's going to move to the upside. I'll give you a real quick, easy example.
Sure.
The KRE, the regional banks, we have been seeing buyers. Now, if you take a look at what's gone on so far in this most recent earnings season that's kicked off, take a look at what the regionals are doing. They're making really nice moves to the upside. I think they've had about a 5% move so far in the KRE just in the last week. A lot of that has to do with what they've been able to put out there from the earnings perspective of things. And we've had the option paper to support that, just like we've seen it in gold and just like we've seen it in other areas of the market. And I'm sure we're going to get gold questions. And I will tell you, the options world is still in love with gold.
There is a gold question. Let me go to that one now. There's another question on tariffs, which I like because it's counterintuitive a little bit, which I'm going to get to next. But let me go to Faith, since you mentioned gold. And Faith just wrote in about gold and asks, gold's at a record high, so should I be looking at investments outside the stock market, clearly hinting at gold. So did you want to pick up on that, Pete?
Well, the one thing I would say is what we're seeing, Colin, not to get too confusing, and I don't want to get too wonky or any of that type of thing, but I will tell you, they've been buying GLD for the last month or more, and they continue to come in almost weekly or even faster, depending on how fast it's starting to move the GLD to the upside. We are seeing this rolling up and up and up, and somebody who's making money the entire way up, but taking some of those profits off the table. That's what we've been seeing in a big way. As a matter of fact, it was just yesterday, we had a buyer of 60,000 of the May calls. Then we had 75,000 of the June calls. And then we had another 40,000 of the June calls. Different strikes, different this and that. And I don't want to get into that. But I will tell you, they are looking for more and more and more with gold, which probably doesn't say a whole lot about our dollar, which has been getting.
I was going to say, not exactly a vote of confidence, definitely, if you want to go talk about this whole sell America thing and all that we've been talking about on TV a lot. The question, and John, you can obviously pick up on the gold if you want. The question I was going to bring up on the tariffs was from Mike. And Mike said, are there any stocks or sectors that could benefit from Trump's tariffs? Clearly, he's been hearing us talking about the ones that will get hit by it. So you want to take that, John?
Well, technically, Elon uses very little parts from outside this country. And even though he makes cars in China and in Europe, I think it's Germany and Europe, that's for sale in those markets. He's basically playing the same game that Hyundai and BMW and Mercedes play when they build their cars here, because eventually every country, every jurisdiction demands something more from you if you're building a car and just shipping it into their jurisdiction, their area. And I think overall, people will look for opportunities like Tesla, like the gold miners in this country, just because, we touched on it. Mm-hmm. Some of these gold miners are up 50 to 100% this year. Mm-hmm. This year, Connell. So
it's crazy.
When you see a Freeport, an Anglo-Ashanti symbol AU, IAG, or a number of others that are just skyrocketing, mm-hmm. I'd remind yourself of the same thing that Pete was talking about with NVIDIA. It was great until it wasn't. Gold has broken down pretty hard in the last 24, 48 hours. This is giving you a great opportunity to get in if you're somebody who thinks that we're going to continue to see trouble with tariffs. If we're going to see volatility and the VIX staying high, you're going to love gold. But if you're somebody who thinks things calm down, I think the GLD, even though there's all that call buying, could settle in at about 300 instead of 320 where it was yesterday or whatever it was, Pete.
Maybe things will calm down. Trump said he's not going to fire Jay Powell.
Yeah.
I have no intention of firing him. And then what else? And Bessent, it's my best Trump. And then Bessent, that's what I do in the commercial breaks, by the way. And then Bessent came out.
A big, beautiful firing.
Yeah. Why would I fire him? He's terrific. Great. And then he said, Bessent came out. I thought Bessent sent a signal to the Treasury Secretary on purpose, it seemed like today, to be like, hey, listen, I got this sort of thing. So that was kind of interesting. Couple more. Let's try to squeeze in a couple more. We only have a few minutes left, but let me see. I liked the one. This is good. This is a layup for you guys if you want to promote your own website. Not that I want, but someone actually asked, what's a good place for someone with zero knowledge to start and to learn about stocks? So, but what? No, seriously. What would you say to someone who is just getting started?
In all honesty, get as much education as you could possibly get, because you've got to really understand where your risks are and where they are less and all the rest. And the only way to do that is to find yourself something. I mean, that is what we do. We educate people first and give them the opportunity, whatever they want to do after that, whether that means join Market Rebellion and some of the services or whatever. But there are so many great books out there. There really are. And there's a lot of different ways that you can try to find out more and more.
What's your favorite market book?
But the one thing I would say for sure, Connell, is how about this? If I gave you this example, why are John and I in the options world? Well, we started in the options world. John was 1981. I was 1992.
Yeah, I thought, well, that's not because of the movie Trading Places.
Well, we kind of enjoyed the movie, but no. But I think that the reality is, look at what our volumes look like compared to the New York Stock Exchange and what stock volumes look like. Stock volumes have been dropping. You look at the options world, we're averaging 68 million contracts a day right now. So to give you an idea, when I started in the business, it was 700,000. And that was in 92. When John got in the business, what was it, John? Like 300,000, something like that?
Yeah, 400,000.
So it gives you a little
trade as much in one day now as a whole year when I started in 1980.
Is that right? That's great. Right. That's a crazy stat, though, when you think about it. One day. Wow.
It's crazy. By the way, Colin.
Yeah.
Colin, last time I was on with you, you were saying, well, John, you're just mentioning Wheels Up because you want
the private jet grab. Yeah.
You want a free ride in the jet. Well, I ran into the chairman, George Mattson, and he said, I loved when he said that.
I thought you were going to say he was giving us
I got no free ride.
Don't tell us on the air. We got to say we can't accept that kind of thing. Of course. In the meantime, you're like, I thought you'll be doing your next appearance like on Zoom from the jet. So, all right. So let's do one more because this is, we've had a lot. We've done these Q&As a few times after the show like this and a lot of like 401k stuff. Just people get nervous. And it's tough to ask if they don't ask, if you don't know kind of like where they are, right, in their life specifically, because it's different for everybody. But Suzanne on Facebook did give us some specifics. So let me have both of you guys take this. What would you recommend, broadly speaking, that you do with your 401k if you have 4 years until you retire? So does anybody have kind of thoughts on that and how people should look at investing timelines, especially for retirement?
Well, for a long time, they always thought you should have the percentage of your portfolio equal to your age in bonds. So in other words, as you got older and older, the percentage in bonds or something pretty much safe that's the full faith and credit of the United States government. But you're only going to get right now, what, 4 to 5% on those bonds. She's got 4 years before her retirement and hopefully a lot of great years in retirement. So I'd say pay attention to that too, because not like you're just going to cash out of all your stock once you hit retirement. You're still going to need that money working for you. So I think it's a great opportunity right now because of what's happened with the tariffs and so forth and the volatility in the market. It's pushed down some great stocks. Apple's under $200 a share. I think Apple goes back to the mid 200s probably by June or maybe even September. But I think there are some great stocks that have been unduly punished, and or when they lift the tariffs on both sides, I think it'll be better for these. So for great years, if you are brave enough to even just go part of that money into the markets here.
The question, of course, always with something like that, Pete, and we'll make this the final point, is that it could bring up some risk for an older person that they're not comfortable with, right? So how do you balance that, and what percentages do you look at?
Yeah, I would side with John on that. I mean, you're totally right. The idea of, do you want to have that risky of a trades on or investments on and all the rest of it, and you want to get yourself over to something that's going to be very solid for you. So yeah, I think that you just have to be very, honest with yourself and understand where you are in life and where do I really retire? Is it in 4 years? Maybe you change your mind. I mean, there's a lot of different things that can happen. Sure. So there's a lot of excitement, I think, about that. But I think people really, it's great to be able to have those opportunities. But I do want to say one thing, John, that bothers me about Apple, and I never really thought about this until the other day when I found out more and more deep information with what's been going on and where they produce all of their phones and so forth. 90% of their phones, where are they done? Well, in China.
Yep.
That makes me very angry in terms of it has nothing to do with China. It has to do with the decision that you're going to put the entire company basically on their back over in China. That kind of worries me, the fact that they were loaded up over there where I think you should have been moving across
that they didn't diversify more. I mean, I've heard Tim Cook talk about that, and he's always said something to the effect of like, yeah, it's cheaper, but the other thing with China is the scale. They have I mean, it's just a simple way of thinking about it. They have so many people that actually know how to do this stuff, that are good engineers, that it would have been harder for him to diversify. But you're right, he might get, kind of get screwed by that right now, by not being diversified enough. It's an interesting point. Thank you guys a lot. We appreciate it. Maybe we'll do this again one night if you have time, but I think people like it. They get a chance to kind of be informally ask some questions. Market Rebellion is their outfit, John and Pete Najarian. So look that up, and then we'll see you next time on TV. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Look forward to it. Take care.
I'll see everybody on TV at 3:00 tomorrow, 3 Eastern, from 3 to 6. So thanks for watching us here on the digital platforms of NewsNation, and we will see you on TV. Have a great night.